in Florida, and I wanted to talk about this because this reminded me of some George Zimmerman shit. There's a couple things I want to say about this, but in Florida, a Mexican gentleman, Latino Mexican, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong or whatever, you know what I mean, Luis Orlando Santos Santiago, a 54-year-old Mexican guy, on June 9th, a black kid was driving through his neighborhood. I'm sorry, a black teenager was riding his bike through his neighborhood. This Mexican man said that in the neighborhood, there had been some break-ins. Does that sound similar? In the neighborhood, there's been some break-ins. He stopped the kid. He told the kid, I'm a police officer. Stop right there. He detained the little boy, saying that he was robbing houses around the community, saying that he even stole the bike that he was on, right? So he detains this little boy, scares the shit out of him. The little boy is hyperventilating. He's hella scared. He don't know what's going on. You see what I'm saying? This is why it's so important that we figure out ways to protect our youth. This is why it's so important that we call shit out like this. So, long story short, the Mexican guy eventually calls the police. The police gets there and like, what the fuck is going on? This little boy didn't rob nobody. This little boy didn't steal this bike. He didn't do any of this shit. And they eventually take the little boy and bring him to practice. They put him in a police car and bring him to practice. The Mexican gentleman is arrested for false imprisonment because, come to find out, he told the kid he was a police officer. He wasn't a police officer at all. See, it reminds you kind of the George Zimmerman shit. He wasn't a police officer at all. He was like a security guard some years back. You see what I'm saying? So when I see a situation like this, family, the first thing I'm going to say, our Mexican brothers and sisters, I'm for an allegiance, us being an ally. I'm not against a Mexican American being my ally, but if that's going to happen, a couple things have to take place first. First, you have to fight with me when all this shit is popping. When all this racial injustice is popping off, you got to speak up too, right? And I don't see that a lot from the Mexican community. I could be missing something, but I don't see that a lot. So you got to speak up for us when these situations happen, because when immigration is taking place and all these other issues are taking place that affects Mexican people or Latino people adversely, sometimes we the first to be on the front line to help you, to support you. You feel what I'm saying? So that shit gotta go both ways. And a lot of time when we going through our struggles, I don't see a lot of other people. Sometimes there's white people out there, but I don't know what that's about to a degree. You know what I mean? But when it comes to our allegiance with other races of people, again, I'm for it, but it just has to be genuine. And then we have to realize, family, I don't give a fuck who gets upset about this, but some Mexican Americans, some foreigners, some people who have came to this country within the last 25 to 30 years, unfortunately, a lot of them take on the same ideology as the white supremacists. A lot of them take on the same ideology as the dominant white society. So when they come over to this country, and this doesn't exclude anybody, like African immigrants, some of them come over here and they be on that same shit. They look at black Americans the same way that racist white people look at black Americans. You see what I'm saying? That's why you can have a George Zimmerman. That's why you can have this gentleman here, when we need to be honest, on the census, a lot of these people who are Latin or speaking Mexican or speaking these different languages, on the census, they put white. Don't get that shit fucked up. Oh yeah, family. That's some real shit. On the census, they put that they white. You see what I'm saying? So it's a cold game out here, man. We need to realize that at times, I am one that I want to have allies. I think that can be useful, right? But if your intent is to sabotage us, or again, if you looking at me through the same lens as somebody white who is racist, or somebody white who doesn't mean my people any good at all, then fuck you too. You see what I'm saying? Because it's too late in the game for that now. Because I'm not walking around searching for allies or searching for people to agree with us. Like, we ain't got to do that. We can do this shit by ourselves. There's 40 million of us. In my opinion, we can get whatever we want to get done, whether it be politically, whether it be with reparations, whether it be with our communities. Outside help can be useful, but we can do this shit on our own. You feel me? So this dude was put in jail. Hopefully he gets a lot of time in jail. Think about if he would have had it, because the young man was scared because the Mexican guy kept going in his jacket, so he didn't know if he had a gun or whatever. What if this would have been a George Zimmerman situation where he pulled a gun out on him? You know what I mean? Like, these particular citizens who deputize themselves in the face of black strength. You know what I mean? Because I don't see this kind of, show me the news story where white kids get treated like this. Maybe I'm fucked up. Maybe I'm missing some shit. Maybe I don't read well enough, right? Show me some news stories where a teenage white kid gets treated like this by a black man or by a Mexican man, and see what happened to that community. See what happened to that white man. See what kind of, or that Mexican man or that black man that does that to a white child. See what kind of justice they go out and search or they go out and seek. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying nothing physically should happen to this dude, but we need to learn how to protect our babies, man. We need to make sure we come to a point where we can make examples out of motherfuckers so they don't do this kind of shit to us. Because I'm happy that this young man, it was just a little mishap. He was able to get off the practice still, but it could have been worse. The Trayvon Martin situation, we seen that it can get worse. You know what I mean? So we got to be on alert, family. Make sure our families are on alert. Make sure our kids are on alert. If you got a young man who's riding a bike at night, he has to know how racism works. Period. He has to know how racism works. He has to know how prejudice works. He has to know how to be on the lookout for people who may not have his best interest at heart. You see what I'm saying? We can't keep sending our kids out in the world ill prepared for the different fractions of society that don't mean us no goddamn good. You got to be aware of that. Now, you don't want to scare your kids or scare anybody in your family, but the truth is the fucking truth. You see what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, family, melanated family, all we got is us, man. At the end of the day, all we got is us. We can seek out these different communities to be allies with, but at the end of the day, all we got is us. So I hope this motherfucker gets time in jail. In the community around, I think they're in Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County, y'all got to do something, man. Figure some shit out around there. You know what I mean? To make sure this type of incident doesn't happen again, because it could have been a lot worse. I'm happy that the young man, it was just a mishap. He was still able to get to practice, but the shit could have been a lot worse. You feel me? So, fuck that motherfucker in Florida. That's how I feel about it. All right, so news stories is done. Let's talk about the topic.